We bought MGM from Kirk Kerkorian, Trakinda Corporation, owned the shares, and we offered him 1.23 billion, $20 and something per share, 50 million per month for 4 months non-refundable, which was a hell of a risk to take. Credit Lyonnais had already lent us $640 million, and so it was a risky move to make. I went to Switzerland at Bernie Cornfield's castle, and I stayed at the Diplomat Hotel for one night, and my friend Sammy there said to me, listen, we had Credit Lyonnais people here last week, and they're worried. I said, these people are capable of killing you. I thought, fuck this for a game of soldiers. We're not taking any chances here, so what should I do? And we looked at a war zone, and the war zone was in the Yugoslav wars there. Avkan was none of that. He was a decent person. Yes, he was the commandant of the Serbian Guard of Volunteers, the mercenary unit that started in the First World War, headed by foreigners. You could talk to Saddam like I'm talking to you. One of the great things about Saddam was his style and his authority. And when it came to the end of our stay, I went to pay the bill. They said, the bill has been paid. I said, what the hell? Who's paid the bill? They said, Mr. Palmer, who owns the land here, has paid the bill for you and your wife. Years later, when he's arrested, I receive a phone call. Mr. Palmer wants to see you. I went there, saw him at Longlaat in prison, became his lawyer, found the flaw in the confiscation order there, which was a wrong notice. And the rest is history, 38 million blown. But that made me an instant target for the CPS and for the authorities, because they really were made to look stupid. I got a call while I was in my car going to Longlaat in prison. He said, Mr. Van Hoogstraten would like to see you. And he'd always been my hero as a boy. He wore the right coat. As I said in the documentary, I never thought I would end up representing him. But basically, to cut the long story short, there was a misdirection by Mr. Justice Newman. We found the point where he got it wrong. And, again, that conviction had to be quashed.
Welcome back to Not Guilty TV. Today we've got the most remarkable guest, a real treat for you guys. If you don't know, by the end of this interview, you're going to be aware of the most remarkable character. Let me give a little introduction to today's guest. So today we have the privilege of speaking with Giovanni Di Stefano, a figure whose life reads like a script of a blockbuster film. Known as the devil's advocate, Giovanni's career has spanned continents, courtrooms, and some of the most controversial chapters of recent history. From orchestrating one of the most enigmatic acquisitions in Hollywood with MGM Studios to serving as the trusted, confident, and powerful and polarizing figures like Saddam Hussein and Arkan the Tiger, Giovanni's story is one of unparalleled audacity and intrigue. As a lawyer, those qualifications have sparked heated debate. He achieved victories in some of the most high-profile and complex cases, securing freedom for individuals deemed untouchable by the establishment. His work with figures like Nicholas van Hoogstraten and John Goldfinger Palmer solidified his reputation as one of the most formidable legal minds, even as it made him a target of authorities worldwide. Beyond his legal career, Giovanni has been a businessman, negotiator, and advisor with ventures and relationships that have placed him at the nexus of power, politics, and controversy. Whether navigating the tumultuous landscape of war-torn Yugoslavia or facing imprisonment himself, Giovanni's life has been defined by resilience, intellect, and an undeniable knack for turning the impossible into reality. In this interview, we delve into the life, career, and enigmatic personality of one of the most infamous figures of our time. Giovanni, welcome to Not Guilty TV. Sorry if it's such a drawn-out intro, but for someone like you, we needed something like that. I tried to have it as short, as concise as possible, but that was the best I could do.
I'm in Monaco in my residence here. When I look back and I walk the streets here, the first time I came here was 1972, thanks to Sir Maxwell Joseph and Sir Charles Claw, who bankrolled me. I was just a child, basically, there. And you know what I see? I see nothing has changed. It's as secure now as it was then. This is the good thing about Monaco there. And that's why, I chose this place as a residence. Of course, it helps that you don't pay tax here.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully one day I'll get the chance to come over there, visit you, and do a slightly longer form bit of content in the beautiful Monaco. But how you enjoy being back there? I'm sure.
Well, I mean, this is my fourth or fifth time back. The regulations now have changed. You could be resident in Monaco and never stay here, but now you have to sleep 7 nights a week here. I've got my phone, I've got my apartment. Like I'm always compliant with the law until I change the law.
Absolutely.
That's the part of that
Where would you rather be than Monaco, though? As it says, there's nowhere you'd rather be with, is there?
Well, not yet. I haven't found the place yet. Qatar is very close to, Doha. The Al Thani family are very good friends of mine there. They've invited me to Doha there, as has Syrian president, and as has obviously Iran and other presidents as well, in the African communities there. So, I
Absolutely.
do the very best that that I can for as many people as I possibly can there. Don't always get it right, and you can't win all the time. But when you win spectacularly.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, like I said, in these legal cases, unfortunately, I've got a bit of had a bit of problems within the legal field, and just to
Who
get
hasn't?
yeah, absolutely, just to get one or two victories when it comes to appeals and stuff like this is remarkable. I know decent lawyers haven't had any victories in 20 years in appeals and stuff like this. So,
The Court of Appeal, Christian, is an intellectually dishonest functional organization. It is, and I often remind them, they are a creature of statute of the 1907 Criminal Appeal Act there, and they should comply with that edict. Unfortunately, what they do is that they only allow, 2 or 3% of cases to go through. And I understand why, it can't be that every judge gets it wrong all the time. So you have to safeguard public confidence in the criminal appeal system. But that's not the way that I work. If something is wrong, it's wrong and it has to be quashed, and you can't find a way around it. Luckily, the proviso is hardly used now. The proviso in the Criminal Appeal Act, that many people don't know, is that notwithstanding that everything has gone wrong and all this, that, and the other, and this is the summing up was wrong, the indications of law were wrong, the directions were wrong, you know, notwithstanding everything that has gone on in the case, we still refuse to quash the conviction. That's called the 6-2. Now, that is hardly ever used, but they can use it still. So even if everything has gone wrong in a trial, they can still say, well, who cares? Even if it had gone right, the jury would still convict. I'm not sorry a subscriber to that policy, and I make it quite clear. And let me tell you how I make it clear. If you post up a picture outside the Royal Courts of Justice, it's called the Royal Courts of Justice, not the Royal Courts of Law. It's about justice, and justice sometimes has a binary track with the law, and sometimes it diverts and goes in different directions. And I often remind them this is the Royal Courts of Justice, not the Royal Courts of Law. So it has to be, decisions have to be, but they have become intellectually dishonest. And I'm the first one to say that 20 years ago, got penalised for saying that by Chris Rose, Lord Justice Rose. But you know what? I don't give a damn, as Rhett Butler said in Gone with the Wind.
of course, yeah, justice is a remarkable thing to find within the legal field, unfortunately, even though that's what it strives to achieve. But like I said today, I very much appreciate your time, Sid. I realise how busy you are. So I've got just 10 questions set out for you that cover some of the
Go.
most remarkable and fascinating things that you've done within your lifetime. So to start with, Stu, gave you sort of mass notoriety, I'd say, with the first thing was probably the MGM deal. Would you agree? And could you walk us through the acquisition of MGM, how you managed to convince the banks, and talk us through the deal itself?
Well, MGM, we bought MGM from Kirk Kerkorian. Trakinda Corporation owned the shares. He wanted, I think it was like 900 million. We offered him 1.23 billion, $20 and something per share that he had in that there. but we didn't have all the money straight away. So we offered him 50 million per month for 4 months non-refundable, which was a hell of a risk to take because we were making 26 films at the time, there, and that budget had already, Credit Lyonnais had already lent us $640 million. And so it was a risky move to make. But the way that we figured it out was that they have 3,000 films. Steve Ross at Warner Brothers came to see me and said, look, we'll buy the film library from you for six. So we basically had the funding, except that whenever you think you have something, you got nothing in Hollywood there. So we paid 50 million, took it out of our cash flow, 50 million out of cash flow, 50 million out of cash flow, 50 million out of cash flow. We made the Russia House, Quigley Down Under. We made a number of films, also Thelma and Louise, which was nominated, that. But when it came to closing, we were short about $638 million. So I thought, what the hell are we going to do here now? We have to close this deal in 1990. And so what we did was that we wrote a check from Credit Lyonnais for 638 million, 4 signatures on there. Now, my colleague, Giancarlo, we were at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. We'd spoken to White and Case, the New York lawyers, for Credit Lyonnais, and for Trachinda had different lawyers as well. But we had to pay out there. Now, of course, checks don't exist anymore now, but then they did. It was most important. So we, wrote the check, delivered the check, and we closed. There was just one problem. We had no agreement with the bank for it. So when on the Tuesday, and I was just saying that Peretti wanted to throw himself out of the window at the Waldorf Astoria, and I said, you can't do that. He said, why not? I said, because there's no fucking windows open. So you can't do that. There's a little anecdote there. So we closed the deal there. On the Tuesday, the bank received the check because they hadn't got a clue. And they said, but, we have no agreement. I said, well, listen, it was Jacques Riffaut and Jacques Riffaut, the one that called me, at the bank. Huber had already been made aware of that, who was the president of Credit Lyonnais Bank Netherlands. And Voltstein were also there as well. They said, I said, listen, this is what we're going to do. You bounce that check, and I'm going to go to court straight away and take out proceedings against you. What crazy person would write a check unless they had an agreement? So they paid the check. We entered into an agreement, that they paid the check. There was just one problem. The bank didn't have the dollars. They had to scramble to get the actual US dollars, to meet that. And that's how we did that there. But then we had to enter into an agreement that if we didn't repay the money within 12 months, they would seize control of the company. And of course, who the hell can pay back 1.23? Today, it's worth like 10 billion. Jeff Bezos, who's here in Monaco, I saw him last night there. He paid 7 billion for it. So we were not wrong. It's just that what happened afterwards, we were not able to make the Bond films because of a personal situation that Peretti did with Barbara Broccoli there, and it just went pear-shaped from there onwards. But I came out of it intact. Peretti obviously didn't, nor did Fiorini, my partners, because they refused to follow the law. They wanted to do things their way. Well, I only advise people how to do things. I've sometimes sailed close to the wind, but I've never crossed that line. And that's how, we lost the company 2 years later. But whatever anyone can say, we closed the deal and we owned MGM for 2 years there. And that's that. And yes, I was scared of the lion in the office.
Absolutely fantastic. How would you even come to acquire something like that? Who were your partners? Were they like mafia figures, or were they serious?
No. We don't do that. We're not gangsters. I'm a lawyer. I know a lot of very serious people, politicians. I do know people involved in organized crime. I have no part to play in their life other than as their lawyer or advisor. And my advice is always to stay clear of the law, comply with the law until the law is changed. I do not believe in violence. The Italian Constitution, Article 11, repudiates war and violence, and I'm a big advocate of that. I've said so to the Russians, to the Ukrainians, to Hamas, who I represent. I've said so, to a number of, to Benjamin Netanyahu, who I also know. I've said it to the IRA, to the UDF. You kill people, you kill your vote. So I do not, subscribe to any policy to do with violence. Violence is out for me. It's a no-go area.
Indeed. So after the whole MGM debacle, you ended up moving to Yugoslavia, and it was mentioned on the documentary that I've watched dozens of times, probably one of my favorite ever videos, that you went there to hide out after the MGM thing, obviously with the Yugoslavia-Italy war going on. Is that the truth behind that? But obviously, once you got there, you didn't do a very good job of hiding out by becoming a right hand of the leader of the country.
But in a war zone, only people can come into the country who you know. So if anyone's going to come to kill, see what happened was that I went to Switzerland at Bernie Cornfield's castle, and I stayed at the Diplomat Hotel for one night. And my friend Sammy there said to me, "Listen, we had Credit Lyonnais people here last week. They were talking about they don't care about the money, they care about the scandal." And they're worried. I said, "These people are capable of killing you." I thought, fuck this for a game of soldiers. We're not taking any chances here. So what should I do? And we looked at a war zone, and the war zone was in the Yugoslav wars there. So I went to Yugoslavia at the invitation of the government there. I supplied them with a number of films for their television, camera equipment, supplied them with medical aid, supplied them with cigarettes, supplied them with fuel. We did not supply them with arms or anything now. I did not break the sanctions at all there. And yes, I became it's even better for me to become one of the 5 people who control Yugoslavia, because I know who's coming in and out. Anyone that, wants to cause me harm, I know, because I have control of that there. And that is exactly what happened. I moved there, and here I am today, 30 years later.
And explain to us what was actually going on in Yugoslavia at the time, because obviously they're at war with Italy, and obviously
no, they were not at war with Italy. The republics were at war with each other. Croatia, Bosnia, Slovenia, they were all at war with Serbia. And this all kicked off because the Germans, Chancellor Kohl, recognised Croatia as an independent state, and that kicked everything off. And they are to blame entirely. And obviously he's dead now, but I did speak to to Helmut, Kohl, that there was a mistake they made to recognise. It's like, for example, someone recognising Cornwall as a separate country in England. It's going to kick off, big time.
Yep. And so explain to us who Arkan the Tiger was, Giovanni, because I've watched dozens of programs on him. And he's such a sort of divisive character. They said he was the boss of a mafia. He was running around Europe as a hitman, robbing banks. Then he ended up going back to take over Yugoslavia as the mafia boss who took over the country. And then he was slaughtering tens of thousands of Muslims while he was the leader of the country. Like, what truth is there of this?
Crap. Total nonsense there. But why let the truth get in the way of a good story there? That is all nonsense. That's all fairy tales and fabrications, from starting with Arnold van Linden from Sky News, who took a stance against Serbia, and therefore everything and anyone that was Serbian was deemed to be evil and everything, which is crap. There now it's all different. Now they're all brothers, they're all friends again. I predicted this 25 years ago. This war, this conflict is crazy. Because in 20 years' time, we're all going to be, shaking hands and having coffee together. And that's exactly what it is now. Now you've got all the republics, their own countries. Everybody's living side by side with each other. No violence, no nothing, and all aspirant members of the European Union. But Arkan was none of that. He was a decent person. He was a father. He was. It really is rubbish that what's that. Yes, he was the commandant of the Serbian Guard of Volunteers, but the Serbian Guard of Volunteers is a mercenary unit that started in the First World War, headed by foreigners, and they are only summoned when the borders are at risk. And guess who the new commandant of the Serbian Guard of Volunteers is now? I'll give you one guess.
Go on.
I'll give you one guess. Come on, who do you think it is? The new. You're looking at him.
Really? Oh my God.
Well, because I'm a general in the first line there. Boris Pelovic, is deceased. Arkan is deceased. That leaves me. And as I've said so on many other interviews, and I'll say so again here, I will not hesitate to summon the Serbian Guard volunteers if the borders of the country are at risk. Now, that's never going to happen again because it's going to go into the European Union and there will be no borders. But in the event that anyone wanted to attack Serbia and the borders were at risk, I would not hesitate to summon. That would be my duty. I have a duty of care to do that. But that's never going to happen. So, it's just an ideological concept. But I have no hesitation in doing that if that were the case. And I hope that there would be people in the United Kingdom that would do the same to protect their borders if the borders of the United Kingdom were at risk as well.
Of course. And what was the truth about Arkan, his hatred for Muslims and his alleged slaughtering of Muslims? Is there any truth in that?
Rubbish. Total nonsense. It's absolute rubbish. Look, the Muslims had their own political party in Serbia. I mean, they have their own mosque. They have, there was never any. This is something that was built. This is the Dr. Goebbels situation. Dr. Goebbels persuaded the German people that everything that Jews did was evil. So they didn't need the police or the SS or the SA to that. The normal people believed the rhetoric that came from the media and started attacking, Jewish shops. And the same policy was adopted by a number of the media in Serbia, that everything Serbians did was that, and it's crap. And it took people like me and the courage of people like me to put that right at considerable risk, let me tell you.
Indeed. And while you were in Yugoslavia, the country became sanctioned, which put you in a remarkable position to be able to sort of broker deals with some of the other sanctioned countries. And that's when your relationship with Saddam Hussein began.
That's correct.
Talk us through how that initially began and some of the deals you brokered between Iraq and Yugoslavia.
Well, it's not just Iraq and Yugoslavia; it's the Myanmar Republic, and there was the Congo. We actually started what is now BRICS. The concept of the countries of coming together, which is an alternative to the G20. Who trade themselves. So we had a number of countries that Zimbabwe, for example, Bobby Mugabe was in. So we formed a close-knit association of countries under sanctions that would help each other. And that's how it came about. I thought that was a good idea. And in fact, it was a good idea and it developed.
Indeed. And so how did you find dealing with Saddam then and Mugabe?
He's a normal person, just like me, and you could talk to Saddam like I'm talking to you. One of the great things about Saddam was his style and his authority. He didn't need to speak to have authority there. Ragad, his daughter, told me that never once had they seen him in his pajamas, and that was Dad. They always saw him in uniform or that. It's the image that he created that. But Iraq needed a strong leader. Look what happened immediately that he was deposed. It's gone to pieces. The same with Libya, Colonel Gaddafi and Aisha. They are, also people that I represented and people that I'm proud to say are my friends as well. Aisha specifically, she's a good lawyer.
Indeed, and over the years, Saddam actually held you in a very high regard. So you ended up becoming an advisor to him. And then at times, unfortunately, you ended up being part of his defense team in what happened. And so talk to me about what you think the Americans did and how they manipulated the situation with Saddam and what your feelings on how his end came.
Well, the Americans, I have to be grateful to them because they protected me when I was in Iraq. I did nearly 4 years in Iraq there. And I'm still alive. You're supposed to see psychiatrists when you do 3 journeys from the green zone to the airport. I've done about 200 and, I've never seen anybody there. But the US Marshals and US military, I'm truly grateful for that. I did not trust the British, did not trust the Italians to protect me. I trusted the Americans there and I was right in doing so. And I'm thanked by the Americans because my appearance at the tribunal effectively verified the existence of what could be remotely loosely called a fair trial. Now, there were some judges that, did not. The procedure in Iraq is somewhat different to the United Kingdom. If you have just 30 seconds, I can explain. You're the witness. I ask the judge the question. The judge asks you the question. You reply to the judge and the judge replies to me. Now, you'd expect that would be verbatim, but it's not. Sometimes the judge replies to his own question there. So a few times, with Judge Hassan and other judges there, I said, look, we've got a situation here where the presence of the witness is superfluous because you're answering your own questions. And he put me downstairs in the cells for a few hours, together with my colleague Isaac Ghazawi. And we're lucky that we had the Americans to protect us, because if it wasn't for that, we would not be holding this conversation today. There, it's an extremely dangerous place, Iraq, at the time when I was there. And I've always told the media I wasn't scared, but let me tell you, I was shit scared. Every night when you hear helicopters, you don't know anyone's going to bomb you. But mercifully, God was with me, and here I am today.
Well, indeed, you need to be thankful for them. That, like we said, as much as they used Saddam as a political pawn, they saved you. So you can only be thankful for that. So the third sort of major stage in your life, obviously, we had the business stage, we had the geopolitics stage, and then you decided where you earned the monocle of the devil's advocate when you decided to come to the UK and fight for some of Britain's most infamous alleged villains, such as Nicholas van Hoogstraten and John Palmer. What made you make the decision to come back and start taking on this role, Giovanni? And then,
well, John Palmer tried, to have a come on with my wife when we were having our honeymoon in Tenerife. I don't blame him. I mean, she's an extremely beautiful woman. So, I mean, why wouldn't she? Was always alone downstairs for breakfast. I was always busy working, at the Bahia del Duque Hotel up there. And when it came to the end of our stay, I went to pay the bill. They said the bill has been paid. I said, what the hell? Who's paid the bill? They said, Mr. Palmer, who owns the land here, has paid the bill for you and your wife. I thought, how? If I knew he was paying the bill, I would have stayed a month. But then, years later, when he's arrested, I receive a phone call from a guy called Dougal, who was a barrister that had been suspended from the Bar Council there, who was advising John. And he said, Mr. Palmer wants to see you, if you can. And I spoke to my wife. She said, now you go there straight to London and see him, because he paid for our honeymoon. So, how can anyone, dare challenge she who must be obeyed? So I went there, saw him at Long Lartin prison, became his lawyer, found the flaw in the confiscation order there, which was a wrong notice. And the rest is history, 38 million blown. But that made me an instant target for the CPS and for the authorities, because they really were made to look stupid.
absolutely.
Hoogstraten called me because
let me
he heard
interject for a second, Giovanni, give a bit of background to the people anyone who, as Mark would say, they don't know about John Palmer Goldfinger. Absolutely infamous, serious villain, allegedly involved in the world's biggest timeshare fraud that was run from Tenerife. He ended up getting found guilty, banged to rights guilty in the UK, but remarkably, in his confiscation order, Giovanni managed to find a technicality, so they had to give back 38 million while he served his sentence. And obviously, you can understand this made Giovanni a serious target for the authorities. And so talk us through that, Giovanni.
Well, also, I got him downgraded from double Cat A straight to Cat C, which was unprecedented, the representations I made there, because I couldn't understand a fraudster doing 8 years imprisonment being double Cat A. It made no sense to me there. So we succeeded in that there. I succeeded in his parole to get him out early as well there. I found the flaw in his confiscation, and that flaw was the wrong notice. And I remember saying to Lord Justice Ricks, he said, well, what difference does it make? And I said, well, my lord, this is the difference it makes here. If you want to divorce your wife, and I knew he was going through a tricky period with her, and you serve her a landlord and tenant notice act to evict instead of, the matrimonial causes act, that, what difference does it make? We all know, of course, that you meant to divorce and not to evict her. I said, I know it, but it makes a difference because you served the wrong notice. And of course, I was right. absolutely correct there. And the confiscation order was quashed. And we got £1 million defence costs order out of it as well, because the fees that he paid for that there, we got back after a 3-day hearing. It was fantastic. You get a check from Liberata, like a dole check, for like £980,000. It was just made my day, that did.
I can
And I
imagine.
obviously,
That's a nice check to get through the post, isn't it?
yes, but that was Mr. Palmer. That was a defence costs order check. He'd already paid that out. To us there. So we didn't keep that. That was his money. He wanted me to keep it, but I'm a stickler for protocol. If I agree something with you, we are not allowed to work on contingency. We are certainly not allowed to accept gifts of more than like $50. A tie or a pen or something, or a dinner. We simply, and I won't do that there, no matter how attractive it is. I won't do that. We have an agreement. You keep to your agreement, we keep to ours. If we succeed, whatever money that you get back, and that's that. We don't do success fees. That's not permitted.
Of
Nick
course.
Van
And
Hoogstraten then called me.
go back,
Uh,
go back to the final one on Mr. Palmer. It was alleged that he held you in such high regard that you were overseeing his timeshare operation while he was in prison.
yes.
What's the truth behind that? Obviously, you weren't running, you wouldn't describe it as a timeshare thing, but rather a holiday complex, I'm guessing, in.
Well, there were 8 complexes there, and what I didn't want is Mohammed Durban. I didn't want the Serbians and the Russians to muscle in on him. So I made it clear. I called a meeting for all these gangsters and said, listen, whilst Mr. Palmer is in prison, nothing changes here. If you want, you have to deal with me, and you have to deal with me. You know how you have to deal with me. You have to eliminate me if that's what. But if you want to start, a massive war, my clients are extremely nervous about anyone, trying to do anything with me there. So let's just keep ourselves nice and tight. When he comes out, he then can, on equal part, he can deal with you. And, you want to take over, you want to do that, you want to create your own war, that's up to you. But whilst he's in prison, everything must have a status quo. And they accepted that. And of course, while he was in prison, nothing happened. The resorts ran normally. People had their holidays, and there was no threats, no violence, no nothing. Of course, when he came out, I couldn't. I no longer was in a position to protect him, because that wasn't my mandate. I just wanted to protect him, whilst he was prejudiced by being in prison. You don't take people's property when they're in prison.
Absolutely. Absolutely remarkable. And obviously, the next, even more remarkable case was the case of Nicholas van Hoogstraten. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Nicholas is arguably alleged to be Britain's most successful criminal and villain of all time. Property mogul, they say slum landlord. He is the Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos of Zimbabwe somehow as well. An absolute genius of a character I've had the pleasure of spending the day with. And if you can add anything to what Nicholas doesn't know, you must be an absolute genius. And Nicholas ended up getting locked up for a murder where allegedly an Asian fella owed him £2,000. He sent some heavies down there who ended up killing him in front of his family. He was absolutely fucked. And Giovanni remarkably came in and saved the day. Talk us about that story, Giovanni, and how that came around, how you ended up getting introduced to Nicholas and how it all came around and what you did for him.
Well, David Engelhart was his lawyer. I got a call while I was in my car going to Longlartin prison. He said, Mr. Van Hoogstraten would like to see you. And he'd always been my hero as a boy. He wore the right coat. As I said in the documentary, he'd been a hero. I never thought I would end up representing him. But basically, to cut the long story short, there was a misdirection by Mr. Justice Newman on joint enterprise. Now, I've written an academic paper on joint enterprise there, which I think I've shared with you as well there. We found the point where we got it wrong. And, again, that conviction had to be quashed, because Nick Van Hoogstraten, if he'd have wanted to kill, the victim, he would have done it himself. He didn't need to send, 2 scallywags. And one of them is deceased now, so God rest his soul there. But Croak and Knapp, if my memory serves me right, there. They went over and above the mandate. Now, Nick couldn't possibly know that there was a gun, there's a shotgun involved. And that's what joint enterprise is about. And in many, many ways, that case was a leading case that then led to Jogi years later on joint enterprise. So anyone that has a joint enterprise conviction for murder, can get in touch with me and we can have a look and see exactly. There've been a couple of cases that I've also overturned on appeal on joint enterprise as well in the last 5 years as well, even though my residence circumstances were somewhat limited, but we still did it.
And remarkably, you actually managed to get Nick's murder conviction overturned then. So
Of course.
you actually managed to get him out of prison free as a bird.
That's correct. Well, I mean, not really, because if you're innocent, you can't stay in prison as an innocent man. But I mean, they dragged him to the very last moment. Even when in the Court of Appeal there was a clear victory, the rules are that you had to go back to the Old Bailey and to be dismissed because it was a specific procedural situation. And instead of taking him back straight away, they made him go back the next day. I mean, sometimes the authorities can be really, really cruel and really heinous. But Nick didn't give a flying Ferrari. He didn't want to come out of the special section because he felt special. He didn't want to go into general population, at Belmarsh. And, he ran his empire basically as an unconvicted person from prison. But yeah, we got him out, and the rest is history, basically.
Absolutely insane. Big congratulations for both those cases. But after that, you'd actually become a huge enemy of the state, the authority, the government, by winning these two most high-profile cases of arguably Britain's, in my lifetime, probably Britain's most successful criminals, the two of them. And then the sort of the controversy, the alleged of the legal qualifications. They were saying you didn't have the English qualifications and all this sort of stuff.
Didn't need them. I had a court case. Mr. Justice Jackson certified my qualification in 2002. That's what allowed me to represent people. But, when it came to my trial, they refused to admit that into evidence. They refused to admit my admission to the New York State Bar, the New York City Bar, the Chicago Bar, the American Bar. I was even a member of the Italian Rome Bar for a period of 2 years. But when they told me that I either had to be a lawyer or a businessman, I transferred to the United States, where I'd already passed my bar exams years back there in Sacramento and never used them. So I'm grateful to my bar counsel because, notwithstanding what happened to me, they retained me as a continuous lawyer, all that period. So I'm extremely grateful to my colleagues there. And let me say also that in my case, post that, the police officer committed suicide, the judge committed suicide, and 3 prosecution witnesses committed suicide because they knew that when I came out of prison, I would research and deal, with the stuff that they did there. I had a fantastic letter from the trial judge who said, the police have that now at the moment, who said that we are both victims in this matter. I was a sacrificial lamb in a drunken wolf party. There's a phrase for you.
Crazy.
You can't forget that. That's not something you can forget in a hurry. The police officer also, and I feel for him because we were all victims in this, but it wasn't Palmer and Van Hoogstraten that made me a target. It was me prosecuting Tony Blair for war crimes.
Oh my
that's what made me the target. I got him to court and I lost, but I got him to court. I actually did file, and we did have a hearing, and I made a fatal mistake of allowing one of the judges, who in fairness, Sufferston, said that he was a friend of Tony Blair, and did I mind, him being on the panel, and like an idiot me, said, no, I believe in British justice.
Well, that was obviously a mistake on your part.
That was a mistake, so I don't always get it right.
You needed to be living at Monaco while you pushed those sort of cases forward. And eventually, did you end up receiving a 14-year sentence as a result of a witch hunt? And did you manage to get it overturned or appeal it while you were inside, or how long?
Yes, the Court of Public Opinion and Scrutiny, which is an independent court there by ex-judges, quashed my conviction in 2023, and that's available online. You can look at that there. And it was a reasoned judgment of like 40 pages as to where they'd gone wrong. They'd falsified previous convictions of mine, which I don't have. They'd falsified all sorts of documents This was what we call a Memo 618 situation where the judge was forced into taking action by the state. Now, that still goes on. Memo 618, at every hearing at the appeal, Heather Hallett also received Memo 618, Lady Justice Hallett, who's now, I think, on the COVID inquiry and that. I mean, they've given out rewards galore, but people have killed themselves. What's happened is that the state have created 5 people causing suicide, leaving their families distraught. And it's not something that, that really sort of pleases me, because, they were as much, if not more, victims than me, because here I am, I'm still alive and still solvent, more than solvent, and still a practicing lawyer, whereas they, took the decision to take their own lives. Now, just imagine it's not an easy thing to do. People think killing yourself is easy. It's not easy to do. I've done more than 150 murder cases. They are not easy. Killing a person is not easy. Killing yourself is even harder. And I pray for those people nearly every night, and wish that they hadn't taken that course, because I'm not a vindictive man. When you go on vendetta, you have to dig a number of graves, but the first one is your own.
Absolutely. And but for someone like yourself, Giovanni, who's of such means and had led such a luxurious, fantastic lifestyle, stayed in the best hotels, the best properties, the best everything, it must be very difficult for you to have all that taken away and thrown in jail. How was your
I'm a
time in
council
jail?
house boy. My parents were peasants. We came to England. That if I die with €1, I've succeeded, because I was born with the square root of sweet Fanny Adams. Nothing, we had no hope, no prospects, no nothing. We came to England as immigrants. We were prejudiced. We were spaghetti eating swabs, eye ties, yellow army marches. I had all of that at school, but I still shone. I still just moved. I didn't take it personal. Uh, uh,
And while you were in prison, you must have been inundated with requests for legal assistance. There must have been queues at your door or your cell door every morning, surely.
Well, I did more than 100 appeals, and more than 10% were successful. So I have a number of people that still contact me. If I need anything, uh, anyone, should anyone try anything funny with me or anything, I've got an army of people that will help me and protect me. Not that I need it there, because I do my best for everything, but you can't always succeed there. And there's no guarantees in life other than one thing, Christian. You only have one guarantee in life, that someday some bastard will ask you to pay tax. That's the only guarantee.
Indeed. And in terms of business ventures in your lifetime, obviously after the MGM, you've been involved in some remarkable things. At one point, you ended up owning a Scottish football club, and there was the rumours there that you and Hoogstraten were going to buy an old warship, was it, and turn it into a private prison?
We
Um,
sold it instead for scrap there, because they thought that I was crazy. That was the Vengeance, HMS Vengeance. Now, what a brilliant idea. They would have paid £50 per week and living on the bed. And what are they doing now? Now they're paying £400 a week, living on some old float, some old garbage, bloody. So what I was saying at the time, there was absolutely correct. They've adopted that 25 years later. If only they'd adopted that before, it would have been, a lot easier there. So we sold it for scrap and made money.
I know what a business it is, like you said, these days, and how many private prisons there are out there, and how much people are making from this industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry at this point. You
It
guys were
is.
sort of ahead of the mark, weren't you, when it's at that point?
That's right. It was my idea, but it was a crazy. I had an idea also when I owned the football clubs, that the team should be picked by the supporters. They telephone us. So you put up 20 players and you pick that there, and look how much money you would make. And the manager only coaches the team. It was brilliant, because that way anything goes wrong, it's not the manager's fault, it's not the club's fault, it's the supporters
Of
that.
course.
And that, I also said we should have a credit card, a debit card, Visa, Master charge, which is part of the supporters club dues annual subscription, and the card itself. Oh, poo 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 poo! What a rubbish idea! That every club has that now. I also said each club should have its own television at the SPL meeting. Oh, that's a crazy idea there. Every club now has its own TV. Everything that I said years ago, maybe I'm just an anachronism. I was born at the wrong time. Hell
Well,
knows.
if people haven't learnt by now, start listening to this fella. He's got plenty of diamonds in there. Um, this is a difficult question for yourself and probably every lawyer in general. You've defended some of the most notorious figures, including Arkan, Hoogstraten, Palmer, and Saddam. How do you reconcile these actions with your moral compass? And do you believe representing such individuals reflects on your own morality?
Well, everyone is entitled to a defense. That's part of justice. So if we don't give a person a defense, I had this out in Porta Porto, which is a talk show in Italy, when Proibke was arrested. He was a Nazi officer that allegedly killed so many people, but under Italian military code, there is a statute of limitations of 20 years. Now, they prosecuted him under the Italian military code instead of the civil code because it was a military operation that he killed so many Italians in the Fosse Ardeatine there. So on Porta Porta, I said to Bruno Vespa, I said, look, people are now complaining that he's going to get off on there, but the law says that. Why don't we just change the law there? I said, or would you like, let's do one thing. Bring Eric Prydke here on television, give me a gun, and I'll shoot him on live television, because that is what we're looking for. We don't like the law. We don't want to change it. So let's just shoot anyone that's accused of a crime, bring them on live television and shoot them, and that will save the taxpayer an awful. Oh, no, we can't do that. But that's what it comes to. If you don't have a defense and you don't have an effective defense, just shoot the person. And then that's the end of the matter there. But that's not justice, and I will never subscribe to that. And I've defended Ian Brady on his right to die. I believe that evil bastard who scared me shitless as a child, was entitled to die. So I defended him on his right to die, and I was right. I wanted to transfer him to Scottish prison where he can stop taking food. They gave him a nasal gastric feed at Ashworth Hospital there. I thought, that's crazy. It's costing us 500,000 per annum. Let him just die, the bastard there. So I defended him on that. I took his case on his right to die. That the Scottish people accepted him to go to Scotland, but Britain wouldn't send him there. Why? Heaven only knows. But this is, part of, if you have a right to life, you have a right to die. Can't have it just, one way. That was my argument. But, he's dead anyway now, thank God, and I will not say rest in peace, because I hope, he has terrible, well, whatever's happened. Well, what he did was appalling. He scared the shit out of me when I was a child. Let me tell you a small anecdote. When I spoke with him, I said, Mr. Brady, I said, that, during the 60s, as a child, I was scared of what was the bogeyman. He said, where did you live that? I said, I lived in Northamptonshire. He said, well, I wasn't active in that area.
Oh, my God.
Said, but a child of 8 years of age wouldn't fucking know that.
But yeah, don't get me wrong. The last question, I didn't agree that. I was literally playing the devil's advocate myself for a moment. And I believe that everyone has the right to defend. At the point where we don't have defense, even for the most alleged horrific immoral characters, that we haven't got the fair systems of law there, and everything's screwed at that point there. So yeah, I was simply playing devil's advocate, and I don't believe it makes you immoral by representing these characters. It's simply a job, and it's one of the most important aspects of our society, and it's not even fair as it is. And so it's essential that everyone gets the right to a defense, isn't it? So
it is, and I will go with that to the end of my days there. And I will not, I don't shy of defending anybody there, providing that I have the ability, providing I have the time schedule in my calendar, which is getting busier and busier by the day there. But people like me, there would be no space for us. I mean, I'm involved in a local case at the moment where something as simple as an indictment is faulty and is, subject to, to being, the whole conviction will be quashed simply because the originating document that brings you to court is faulty and is beyond repair. There. Now, why are the prosecutors not looking at these documents in the first place? Because the responsibility for drafting an indictment under the 1915 Indictments Act is on the prosecution. They have to be sure that, it is in accordance with the indictment rules. And if you think back that it's that Indictments Act from 1915, over 100 years, it's never been altered and changed. Why? Because it doesn't flipping need to be. You need to get the damn thing right there. And that conviction, that is going to fall apart because of a mistake by the Crown there. And I think it's time that people started paying for their mistakes. In Italy, we had a period where if a judge got it wrong, he could be sued. That lasted 6 months. Nobody wanted to be a judge.
Oh my God. And in terms of, do you ever have to consider who you end up representing? Obviously, in the case of winning the Hoogstraten and the Palmer case, you ended up, their enemies became your enemies when you became a thorn in the side of the authorities. And then when it came to people, the likes of Arkan as well, obviously you're alleged to be by his side. There's a lot written about him in terms of the Muslim slaughter. You're obviously said that didn't happen. But have you ever felt that your life's in danger as parcel of representing some of these characters that you take on their enemies?
I attended the execution of Awad al-Bandar and Bandar al-Takriti in January 2007. I carried the body of Barzan al-Takriti from to the helicopter to be buried in Tikrit next to Saddam and other people there. You cannot be a lawyer, shoot your mouth off with CNN, ABC, and NBC, and then not fulfill your duty. I see my clients till the end. And if that means that I have to be in date, remember, I don't necessarily agree with my clients' politics or what they do, what they don't do. That's not my business. I deal with criminal cases. Saddam's case was criminal, was not political. It became political because of the political element in that. He had to be found guilty. They wanted him removed, and therefore that. And that's what I fight. But the actual trial itself, trials, are very much criminal trials, and they should be conducted under the criminal procedure rules in whatever country. I'm currently involved in a situation where a solicitor is about, well, I'm hoping that he won't be, but it could be extradited to Moldova for a murder that he certainly sure as hell didn't commit. But it's going to be devastating for his family and everything there. And I know that my colleague had an extradition case in Moldova some time ago there, and she won that on the basis that the prison conditions were not consistent with the UK or the European Union. So we're hoping not to let to get him out there. But I will defend anybody. It doesn't mean that I've defended the IRA, I've defended the UDF, I've defended a number of Islamic Jihad, Hamas, Hezbollah. I've defended the old Red Brigades there. I will defend anybody that requests a defense, providing I'm competent at doing that in whatever jurisdiction, and that I can be effective. If I feel that I cannot be effective, I will not take the case, or I will tell. I will not lie. I will not plead not guilty if the person tells me that they did it, but they want. I don't do that. I can only mitigate. I will follow, the rules, because we don't have the best rules in the world at any of the international bar, but it's all we've got. I mean, it's the best that we can do, that there. In an ideal world, if you have an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, you need plenty of dentists and plenty of opticians.
Indeed. And so how are you regarded today in Serbia? What's the public perception of you, Giovanni? And what are your thoughts on the John Palmer assassination as well?
Well, Serbia, I'm very good there. I mean, people, they remember me because I didn't steal anything. I mean, I built 900 homes, as head of a company there in Sremčica. So I built 900 homes in streets like Nesna Junaka, Durmotoska Street near the embassies. I didn't take a single apartment, didn't steal a single. So people do appreciate me there. Regarding the murder of John Palmer, that is something that I'm involved in a current documentary, and therefore I'm limited into what I can say. But I can say this, that the original police investigation was so seriously flawed that some action should be taken against those police officers that advanced certain theories that he killed himself. I mean, there was 8 bullet wounds. I mean, I've never heard of anyone killing himself.
It's not even just the police. Surely it's the medical, the paramedics as well, who turned up. We're talking about Britain's most infamous alleged villain of my lifetime, at least. They turned up and he had a number of holes in his chest, and they deemed it to be natural causes. Like, how could this ever happen? Until days later, where they then decided obviously it was a murder, went back to the scene. But at that point there, the crime scene was absolutely screwed. Surely this is a government hit in order for all these sort of parts to come together in the way they did.
Well, we don't speculate. I mean, the government don't kill people officially, but they do kill them. You know, let me tell you something else that's interesting as well that your viewers didn't know. In the event of a nuclear attack on the United Kingdom, all prisoners serving a natural life sentence will be shot.
Oh my God.
You didn't know that, did you?
Fucking
And
hell.
that is what
Oh, they will all be shot by who?
by there are people within the prison who have the authority and will carry out the moment there's a nuclear attack, because what you don't want is killers out on the loose during a nuclear attack. So in the event of a nuclear attack on the United Kingdom, all the 36 prisoners who are serving a natural life sentence will be shot, will be killed. Now, you can make an inquiry of the Ministry of Justice, and you'll find that what I'm saying is true. I hope it never comes to that. I hope there's never a nuclear attack. But if there were, that's something that might interest your viewers that they didn't know.
Well, you say that, Giovanni, but we're probably closer at the moment than we have been in my lifetime in the past 40 years to the nuclear attack. So let's hope things calm down. Obviously, Trump's going to be in the next couple of months, and hopefully he can calm things down.
Well, I represent the Russian government, as you know, on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm one of the few lucky people with a constant visa to the Russian Federation there. I've been involved in a number of applications that I've made to the International Criminal Tribunal there, and we just have to wait the outcome of those there. But I'm cautiously optimistic that by January of next year, after the 20th of January, things will take a turn for the better for both the Palestinian situation, where I'm also involved in, and also the Russian and Ukraine situation. There, things will take a turn for the better, and there will be no nuclear attack. But in the event that there were a nuclear attack on the United Kingdom, those prisoners serving a natural life sentence will be shot.
Insane. So we will look out for that documentary on the Palmer assassination when it comes out. But talk to us about, like I said, I'd like to really thank you for your time today, Giovanni, firstly. But talk to us about any sort of high-profile cases or projects you've got going on at the moment that should be
Well,
coming
we've got some filming on Lord Haw. We've got the trial of Adolf Hitler, where I'm defending Adolf Hitler in a trial, unscripted trial there. You know, we have a number of docufictions. We've got The Man with the Golden Glasses. We've got Jim Sheridan directing a 6-part series on my life and my clients, and there. I'm head of MGM Pathé Records. I've recorded with artists a number of songs that's available on SoundCloud. I'm also head of Coralco, Samuel Goldwyn Studios, Eagle Lion Films, all with film libraries there. You know, 3 of the biggest names or big names. You know, Coralco Pictures, as you know, did The Terminator and another, Andy Vayner, Mario Casar. When they lost their companies, I bought those companies out there, kept them in hibernation, and they're now all back working, functioning. That we've done episodes of a new talk show called Say You, Say Me. We've filmed 2 already, where me and David Martin Sperry interview women. We've got 50 episodes to do, so we interview only women, and see what part they play in world matters there. That's a novel concept, and it's absolutely fantastic. The first 2 are absolutely terrific. I have to say, we did that in Serbia. So there's a number of projects, but if you ask me my profession, I won't say lawyer. I'm a musician by profession. Music is always, I wanted to be a musician. I wrote 2 hit songs, when I was young. I had them stolen from me, and that's what made me go towards the law. That's so that no one could fuck me over, by stealing stuff from me again. That. And that's it, basically. I live by, day to day, I live a quiet life. I'm not really that high profile. In Monaco, everybody knows me. They know where my seat is at the American bar in the Hotel de Paris L'Hermitage. Obviously, 20 years I've been here. The fact I've been missing 10 years, people are still my friends here. who are here, and they applaud the fact that I came out of it half sane and half alive. I mean, I have Parkinson's and prostate cancer, and that's not something that's going to go away, but it's manageable and it doesn't interfere with my day-to-day life. I have a great supporting family, and that's all. And I have peace of mind.
Absolutely.
A
And
man without peace of mind has got nothing.
absolutely, sir. And you continue to have huge legal victories as well. I saw a case a couple of weeks ago, case of a lawyer now in Cyprus, Christos
Yes.
Polycarpou. So you continue to be a thorn in the establishment side, and you continue to have your legal victories as well, sir.
Well, they got it. They got the extradition act wrong in the Cyprus Supreme Court. I mean, it was clearly a mistake. Yes, he should have gone back to the UK, but they did it under the wrong section. And so, the Supreme Court are sticklers for procedure and for getting it right. We're going back to this indictment situation. The Court of Appeal won't want to do it, but they have no choice but to quash the conviction because the indictment is defective. And on a defective indictment, there's only one solution. It's called nullity. And that's that. Everything that's happened is a complete nullity. You have to get it right. If you get it wrong, people like me will shine.
Of course. And there's going to be a number of people out there who are watching this who require your advice, require your services. I know it's hard for you to say, but how much do you charge, sir? So if someone who's watching this now requires your services, how would it work? How much would it cost them? How much means do they need there? And how would they get in touch?
Well, I'm not turned on by money. I'm turned on by having a case where I can be effective. If I feel I cannot be effective, I won't take it. Even if you offer me 100 million, I won't take it. And if I feel you haven't got anything, you haven't got the money, I'd probably do it pro bono there. But our firm is certainly no more than any other firm there. But it has to be a case where I feel I can be of assistance, not just for the sake of it. You don't get rich by being a lawyer these days. Rest assured, you have to be an effective lawyer. But I'm not just a lawyer. I'm an author. I'm an actor. I'm a musician. I'm more musician than anything else because I rewrite and rearrange. I've recorded more than 150 songs. If you look on SoundCloud, there, that's what I enjoy mostly. But of course, as Nonna Carmela, my mother, said, we don't come to England with you to have long hair and sideburns and be stupid. You need to study, 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 study. You need to study. We don't come out. You are idiots if you were that. And thank you, Mum. I want to say publicly now to everybody, thank you to my mother that convinced me to study, study, study. Because today, sex, drugs, and rock and rolls, I'd be lucky to get one of those three at my age if I'd been a musician.
It certainly worked. And for anyone watching, all Giovanni's links will be below this video in the description box. But which one of them is the best one for people to reach out and actually get in contact with you, Giovanni, if they do actually require your services?
Look, I don't hide my telephone number. I don't hide my email. I don't have, hide anything there. It's readily and easily available because I have nothing to hide. My children don't answer the phone unless they know who it is who's calling. I think that's crazy. I don't give a damn. I'll answer. And if I don't like, I'll tell you to F off. If you try that, but people are very kind towards me. They do behave in a professional manner. So everything is on there. They can call my office. They can call that. The Man with the Golden Glasses, SoundCloud. They can contact me on YouTube, MGM Pathés YouTube. They can contact me on the trial of Adolf Hitler, on Studio Legale Internazionale online. They can contact me on any one of those formats, or they can contact you.
Absolutely. So
and you can
don't hesitate. Like I said, all the links will be below. And please, anyone who wants Giovanni's services, please get in touch with me as well, and I can pass on any messages to him also. So Giovanni, I'd like to massively thank you for your time today, sir. I know how busy you are and how much projects you've got going on. So yeah, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. God bless.